Hello folks, this week's episode is brought to you by Ancards, which is a software to run your co-working space on. There's a lot of co-working space programs out there that do exactly the same thing, and we know and love you all. But what I found as I was traveling around Poland this year with Ancards is the speed that Ancards downloaded and how I was able to log into the co-working space I was going to go to in Krakow, and I had a really weak signal. It's very fast, very effective. So that is the point of differentiation, if I can say that, I'm going to point out to you. Also, we got to know Igor and Helga and the rest of the team very well, as they're based in the Ukraine. They're based all over the world, but they're based in the Ukraine, and we've been very involved with them and the European Co-working Assembly and the efforts to support the Ukrainian project. So please go to our page on the European Co-working Assembly page and check out everything to do with that too. And thanks very much for your support, Igor. It's great to have you in London. And folks, let's get into the show. Hello, folks, and welcome to this week's edition of the Co-working Values podcast. I am really excited here because we have Sir Paul Kirkbright in the studio. Paul, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this. What are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you for my ennoblement there as well, Bernie. Gratefully received. I suppose what I'm known for, I suppose, is kind of connecting people. I think that's what I try to do throughout my career, is kind of make links between organizations and individuals that identify common interests, common areas for collaboration and partnership working. And I suppose what I'd like to be known for is a guy who got stuff done, and that stuff mattered and made a difference to people's lives. And I think, that's probably in common with a lot of people working in the kind of public-private sector nexus of partnership collaboration.
What an accurate representation of yourself. So so there's what we're going to talk about in this podcast today, folks, is what is called Big South London, which is an amazing collaboration between universities and workspaces and what we call local authorities in the UK and around regeneration. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's already happening before COVID, but it's just like become one of the best things I've ever seen a local government put into action in the UK ever. And I don't say that lightly. So how does that work? What is the point of it? Because there's a big point. And anything else you'd like to add to that? And then we can talk about the other bits in between as we go.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. Big South London as an idea actually predates the pandemic. It came about from a collaboration of 5 of the South London borough councils, local government in South London, the boroughs of Richmond, Kingston, Croydon, Sutton and Merton. And they looked at the kind of the innovation landscape, the kind of innovation ecosystem in South London, and noticed that South London as a place, quite surprisingly, was lagging behind not just the London average, but also the national average in terms of structured collaborations between academia, universities, colleges, business community, local community innovators, and the workspace kind of industry. There was very low levels of collaboration, and particularly very low levels of funding being levered into South London, which, personally I found quite surprising when you're dealing with a place like South London that has kind of internationally recognized research institutions such as Kingston University, the University of the Arts, Wimbledon, the Institute of Cancer Research in Sutton, Kew Gardens, all these fantastic places. So the boroughs came together to design Big South London and secure the funding for it. And essentially, there's 3 themes within it, Bernie. The first is around creating some new innovative workspaces right across South London. So we're opening 7 of those, working in partnership with the workspace industry and through the borough councils. There'll be 2 in Croydon, 2 in Merton, and then 1 each in Kingston, Sutton, and Richmond in Twickenham. So that's kind of one element, these new affordable workspaces that we really want to create and establish as interesting places where interesting things happen, with interesting people involved doing interesting things. The next one is around the partnership and developing the links between our universities, our research-intensive organisations and our further education colleges, and developing greater links with businesses of all types and all sizes and at all stages. So it could be around micros, it could be around startups, it could be around established businesses that are looking to grow and to innovate. It could be around transformative innovation. It could be around incremental innovation. So it's really about building those partnerships and making those connections. And then the last thing is a series of kind of projects and programs that we're developing, both for academic colleagues to develop their skills and their networks and their relationships, but also for businesses who are looking to innovate, who perhaps haven't innovated in the past or don't think that working with a university is for them. And what we want to do is land all that interesting stuff and all that interesting collaboration in these workspaces and really create a network of innovation hubs that stretch right across all South London and build South London's reputation as an interesting place to come and do stuff.
That's exactly the feeling I get as the events I've come to. Can you? It's something I've got to get in here, that the Kingston University is very important, because there's a professor there called Will Brooker who did an academic research project where he lived as David Bowie for a year, and I'm going to hunt him down and bring him to our breakfast in August. What is the place? Because a lot of people listen to this are in the co-working industry, and something we're always, me and my folks around me are always hammering home is like how important a co-working space is to the local area. And what I like about, and you're not the only place doing this, Islington are also really good at this with Better Space and City University, is that connection between a workspace where people sit down and open a laptop and do stuff, and then the local community coming in and the academic people coming in and stuff happening. Because there's, I think, all the best places I've seen have some kind of contact to something local, other than just like landing and opening a desk factory.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right there. I mean, this is, well into grandma and sucking eggs territory here, Bernie, with you. But, it's not just about creating the spaces. It's about creating the places, isn't it? And building those communities of engagement and those communities of collaboration. When I kind of started in this role back towards the end of 2020, to be honest, the kind of innovation and workspace elements of the program were the least interesting thing to me, because, we've all opened up innovation centers and workspaces, and you move on one to one to one to one to one. But actually, in a post-pandemic society where we're seeing the nature of work changing, where we're seeing how people are accessing services and support is changing, the growth of localism, a move to people wanting greater sense of local engagement with local assets and spending that money locally and building relationships locally. I think these new workspaces that we're bringing online, and they're coming online with a wide variety of development partners within the workspace industry and with our university and college partners, are actually a potentially really interesting model for how we create networks of collaboration that aren't about people jumping on a train or jumping in a car and driving into a central business zone to spend 8 hours in an office per day, 5 days a week for 48 weeks of the year. I think it gives us an opportunity not just to innovate in terms of product, market and service innovation, but also in societal innovation and the whole concept of how people balance work with life, with fun, with engagement. And I think these new workspaces provide a real opportunity to do something really interesting that can be about attracting, retaining and landing and keeping that talent and that enthusiasm and that energy sticky within South London. There's no organisations better than universities and colleges for generating talent and generating kind of expertise through their academic communities, which are obviously of interest to people who want to start up new ideas, new operations, new businesses and new ventures.
I've always liked the idea of a university being part of the local area, rather than I'm going to go to university in Chester, like I go to my local university, and then, I just by moving through life, I contribute to the economic and community development of the area I'm in. We'll put a link in the show notes, folks, to Boot the Commute, which was a project by our friend Gareth and Mandy at Town Square. And I haven't checked the data yet, but the whole leaving to go into town thing. Remind me, what's the percentage of people that leave Kingston to go to London every day, unless we're in lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen the recent figures, Bernie, in terms of kind of as people are now emerging out of the kind of home working scenario. But I think kind of pre-pandemic, it was about half. It was about like high 40%, maybe even as much as 50% of people living in Kingston were leaving Kingston to work. And the predominant, unsurprisingly, was people commuting into the central business zone in central London. And I think, there is still a place for that. But I think what people want now is balance and the flexibility that people have been given through the managing the impact of the pandemic, basically keeping the wheels on our respective carts at all costs, I think has not just been hard won, but I think it's going to be hard surrendered. I think people have embraced that flexibility, have embraced the opportunity to structure their work lives around the other things that they enjoy doing. And I don't think the genie that came out of the bottle is ever going to go back in the bottle in the same way. And I think businesses and organizations that respond to that and embrace that change in demand that people want within their working and personal lives, I will be the ones that succeed. The ones that enforce a compulsory return to the way that it was, I think will find it very hard, not just to kind of get their existing workforce back, but also attract new talent into the business, because the new talent that's emerging from our universities and our colleges have also embraced that flexibility, not just in terms of their working lives, but also in terms of their studying lives, in terms of hybrid learning, online learning, then supported by face-to-face teaching where it's most needed. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether that 45 to 50% of people in Kingston return to that pattern of commuting, or whether we see the start of much more kind of hubbub working and the growth of hubbubs within the suburbs, where people might spend a couple of days in the office, but actually the vast majority of it is actually spent working from home and working from other spaces, such as the workspaces that we're opening up through Big South London.
That is, I can't believe I haven't heard the word hubbub yet. Oh my goodness. I thought I was up with every word. So I get this feeling that local government, I mean, the ones I know best are in London. Is it 33 London boroughs in London?
32? Yeah, 32.
32. Low 30s, yeah. Folks.
30-ish.
I get the feeling over the last 18 months that they've never understood co-working and shared workspace, or flex, whatever you want to call it, better than they have done now. And it seems to be, I'm things I've taken part with the new and other things we've done with the local London co-working assembly. I am energized by the connection between local authorities, their commitment to, regeneration, and it's more of a kind of a civil servant thing than a political thing. And where it's going, is that me getting all excited over nothing, or is that the case?
No, I think it's very much the case. I think, sometimes local government gets a reputation for perhaps not being, the most exciting and innovative working environment, being quite staid, quite bureaucratic. And I think, if the pandemic has proved anything, it's proved how responsive our local government structures can be. The way that the workload went through the roof in terms of dealing with businesses, dealing with communities, liaising with health partners, they had to innovate at scale and at pace that, quite frankly, would make some of the startups in Caltech and MIT blink. And what they also did as well, local government as well, they've never had stronger or better or greater visibility on their business communities than they've had at this point, through the administration of the kind of additional support grants, and the fact that businesses have engaged with local government to access that support through the pandemic. And obviously the 5 boroughs in the South London area were kind of ahead of that curve, because they were already talking about providing spaces for people to work differently and, to operate differently and to bring investment in differently, looking to provide venues where universities and colleges and research intensive institutions could mix with those people and mix with investors. This predates the pandemic, so there is an extremely high degree of innovation within local government that I think sometimes isn't recognised, and if it is recognised, sometimes it's not valued. So I'm sure all my local government borough colleagues would be standing on chairs and waving flags, Bernie, with what you say about how the sector and the workspace industry is very much welcoming and getting behind the boroughs of London actually prioritising these kind of developments, and I think that investment will continue into future funding programs as well.
Yeah, I hope that too. We've only got a few minutes, but I've got some very great stories about people who
like particularly Karen in Barking and Donna, who she works with. They had Barking Enterprise Centre, and now they have the 360 creative workspace. A 360 workrooms are called, actually. I'm not allowed to call it a creative workspace. It's a creator economy workspace. But they spent so the Enterprise Centre was shut, and they spent the whole of the pandemic helping all the restaurants in Barking, which is hundreds, from like kebab shops to, proper restaurants with linen napkins, sort out their business rates, work out when they could open, when they could not open. And they already had a deep understanding, but they have such a deep understanding of people that they wouldn't necessarily have spoken to if it hadn't been for the pandemic. And I think it hadn't actually occurred to me until you said that. It is such a vital part of the ecosystem here in London.
It is, and especially Bernie, that the relationships that are forged in adversity are the relationships that last forever. That very much kind of we survived and we got through this, and we kept the wheels on the car, and it provides us, particularly across local government into the business community and into academia. It provides us a fantastic platform for collaboration moving forward, and it would be an absolute crime if we squandered this opportunity to build on those relationships that have been forged through the pandemic and move South London forward into what hopefully will be an ongoing and very bright future.
Definitely. So is there anything else? We're going to come back and do something else, because I'm making notes here as we're doing this. I'm like, got to talk about that. But is there anything else you'd like to shout out or direct people to before we go?
No, I think by all means, and Bernie, do drop the link into the Big South London website. We've got lots of kind of interesting new programs and initiatives. Our innovation support program is working at the moment. We're looking forward, to launching a couple of new programs in the next couple of months, which I'd be more than happy to come back and talk about, Bernie. And really, we're just really keen to engage with the workspace industry, to people, like-minded individuals who want to get involved in doing stuff. In particular, we're launching an initiative probably later in the year, which we're calling Design Lab, which is looking at running some design thinking-led challenge, time-intensive projects looking at identifying local problems and bringing people together from different sectors, academia, students, investors, entrepreneurs, public sector, private sector, to design solutions that can then be implemented through Big South London support. So it would be great to engage with workspace colleagues that are already doing other interesting models and methods of engagement, particularly with startups and micros, to come and find out what we're doing in Big South London. And obviously, from the end of this year to the end of 2023 is when our 7 workspace hubs will be coming online. So it would be great to get people involved in the kind of rollout of those workspaces and build on the experience and the insight and the intelligence that is already there to inform what we want to achieve in South London.
Yes. So I'm going to seamlessly go into, on the 2nd of August, the London Co-working Assembly Breakfast Show goes to Kingston, and in Kingston Town Hall with yourself, Paul, and Town Square, we're going to run a workshop. It's going to be something about what we're talking about in this podcast, so I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it will be amazing. There's Gareth and his team are going to run it, and they're a B Corp. They really know what they're doing. I've known them for years. So you'll come there, and if you are, part of the local authority, if you run a co-working space, you're involved in the ecosystem in London, come to that, and your head will hurt, and you will leave with possibly one of the best doses of inspiration we've managed to deliver so far this year. And that whole event is in collaboration with the London Co-working Assembly and Cards, which is our friends from Ukraine who are a co-working space software management platform, and they're very involved with our European co-working assembly ecosystem, and also Town Square. And thank you to Sean for giving us the keys to the Kingston Town Hall to run the whole event. So that's a really important step for our whole thing there, and I'm really looking forward to coming over to your side of town, because I'm on the opposite side of town, and getting involved with that. We'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes, folks. Go back and check them all. There's Boot the Commute in there. We'll also put in What If Everyone Walked to Work, which is a document from 2020 from Town Square, and also our creator economy meetups. And there's a lot of other links I'm going to put in there, because there's so much going on in London that is in the nature of what Paul and I have talked about today, and it is essential work and you can get involved in like helping build communities back. They're going to last for a long time. Thank you very much for your time today, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Bernie, thank you for the conversation, and your support in what we're doing with Big South London is recognised and valued by all of the partners. So it's greatly appreciated.
Thanks, folks. Take care and be careful out there. It is a jungle.